not, but it bloody well is. Hello, everyone. My name's Dawn Butler, and I have a little bit of a potty mouth. Just letting you know. So I'm going to introduce, you know when Rob did that little grime? You know when he did that little dance when he said grime? So I'm going to introduce, he's laughing backstage. You want to do your grime dance? Come and do your grime dance. How does it go? Teach me your grime dance. So I'm going to bring out the real grime artist. He's going to make a very special announcement. Please welcome the amazing Saskala!
Hello, 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 people. Listen, the first thing I want to get out there is that I headlined and supported the Grind for Corbyn movement 2017. The reason why is because we know that there's a lot of trying to hide the truth from the youth and trying to make sure that they're confused about what's going on with politics and everything to do with it. But obviously Jeremy Corbyn kind of opens that up for the youth and lets them understand what they're missing out on. And I felt that was important to put across and to carry on that fight in 2019. So I got an announcement to make. We're bringing back Grind for Corbyn. Yeah. One more time. Rally them up again. The 29th. You guys can catch that. I'll give you a little clip of what it's going to sound like. Let's see what that's going to be sounding like. Why? I'm sure you lot are familiar with this. Saskala, man. Anybody better than Saskala, man? Anybody bigger than better than ever? You could have ever get a better than Saskala, man. I'm like, anybody hotter than Saskala, boy? Anybody better than Saskala, boy? Anybody bigger than better than ever? You could have ever get a better than Saskala. I said, ooh, oh, Saskala. I said, ooh, oh, Saskala. I'm gonna like, ooh, oh, can't I know? I said, ooh, oh, can't I know? What? I said, ooh, oh, Saskala. I said, ooh, oh, Saskala. I'm gonna like, ooh, oh, can't I know? I said, ooh, oh, car. I draw cash for the hour, cash in my stash goes up by the hour. If I draw cash for the hour, more chance that I get. So I shot straight for an hour. Popularity different goes by the hour. I ain't it for an hour. Overtime, that's deep, that's Oli, Oli. I said, Oli, Oli, Oli. I said, Oli, Oli, Oli. I said, oh. Jeremy Corbyn. That's it. Grind for Corbyn coming back 29. Yes, people.
We were too busy going, oh. I mean, I think you need to come back. I love that. So Grind for Corbyn is back. Listen, if we all get together one by one, all the section of the arts, all the different diversity in our communities, we can win this. We can win this. We can get a transformative Labour government in number 10 by December the 12th. We can get Jeremy Corbyn right there in number 10. Let's do it. So as I said earlier, I'm Dawn Butler, and I'm the Shadow Minister for Women and Equalities. And we are so lucky. I mean, by some divine intervention, we've got Emily Sunday, who has written the soundtrack for our campaign with You Are Not Alone. From some divine intervention, we've got the 7th greatest filmmaker in the country who has made some films. When I was going to see this film, I was told, don't go and see it, it's too depressing. And then I went to see it and I was like, but that's people's lives. I mean, that's actually what's happening right now. And actually, you need to go and see it, and you need to be depressed, because the only way you're going to cheer yourself up is if we change and kick Boris out of number 10. That's the only way to cheer yourself up. Cheer yourself up and cheer the country up. So it's with great pride that I introduce to you the man that's ensured that future generations will never forget the cruelty of this Tory government, the cruelty of the Lib Dem and Tory coalition, and how stupid Boris Johnson was as our Prime Minister. So with no further ado, I introduce to you the wonderful Mr. Ken Lodge!
Thank Thanks so much. Wow. Thank you. I can't possibly live up to that. It's for me, this standing on this stage is absolutely extraordinary, because Leslie and I came when Joan Littlewood was putting on those amazing productions, joyous, exuberant, the celebration of working class life at its richest and most funny and most touching and most tender. And so to stand on this stage gives me a shiver down the back. And something else gives me a shiver as well, which is the manifesto from 1945, which is very relevant to what we're doing today. And this was their commitment. We desire to assure to our people full access to the great heritage of culture in this nation. And what is happening today is renewing that promise. We will make sure that the richness of our culture is available to all. But with two differences. The first difference is that the culture now is much wider and more diverse, and this is recognized in the new Arts Manifesto, from Shakespeare to Ben Ockery. And of course, there could have been many other names added there. And that diversity that so enriches us all, it should be there for everyone to share. And also, not only will we make that treasure available, but we'll ensure that everyone's creativity is fully released. And that's absolutely essential, that it isn't just knowing of the culture of the past, but releasing everyone's creativity. And in that respect, it's such a tragedy that the funding for arts in schools has decreased. And we see that in the figures. The great decline in arts entries for GCSE, 35% less, and a quarter less entries for A-levels in schools. And I was talking to a piano teacher just recently, and she said the transformative effect for a pupil who's maybe having trouble at home, who's angry with the world, who has no self-respect, to go to a music lesson and sing a song, to go to a music lesson one-on-one and learn an instrument, is absolutely transformative and increases that self-respect, increases that sense of worth. And that's absolutely what music can do. So to know that a Labour government will make certain that every child has the chance to learn an instrument, that's absolutely transformative, much bigger than it may seem on paper, because it means hope. It means hope for those children who otherwise will struggle. And it's a way into a world that will be new and different and exciting and transformative. So that commitment to schools is hugely valuable. But I think another thing is really important. We know it's difficult to concentrate, to have the space, to have the emotional energy to engage with arts, with theatre, with music, with dance. If you live in desperate poverty, if you're one of the 130,000 kids who were in temporary accommodation last Christmas, and how many will there be this Christmas? To engage, to have the energy to do that. So to tackle that poverty, that context of social deprivation, in order to give people the energy and the time to commit to taking part in the arts is hugely important. We can't detach the social and economic context from people's lives. Absolutely vital. But my God, we have the fight of our lives now. We have the fight of our lives. And we fight not only for the homeless, but we fight for those who don't want to live in an unequal society. And we fight for not only those on 0 hours contracts, but those who are ashamed that we have food banks in our land. And we put up with smears and abuse and lies and public school bluster and we can beat it. And we've sacrificed good comrades as well in that struggle, and that will have to be rectified. But we bring a message of hope. We bring a message of hope economically, and an entry in this great world of theatre, of dance, of poetry, of music of all kinds. A great message of hope, because people need bread, but they need roses too. And with this manifesto, the roses will bloom again. We can win. Solidarity.
Ken Loach. Let's hear it for Ken Loach. A living legend. I don't know if he likes to be called that, but that's what he is. Wow. Half of you, Ken Loach is your favorite filmmaker, and then the other half, he's your favorite filmmaker's favorite filmmaker. Just unbelievable. Up next, we have a wonderful actress who I was so excited to meet backstage. She's tremendous, and she's going to come up here and talk to you for a minute. Please welcome to the stage, Maxine Peake.
Hi, I'm going to do a little reading for you. It's my party piece. It's the Mask of Anarchy, or the Max of Anarchy. I think I've done it that many times, but I'm really honoured to do it here today. And it goes to show this piece of poetry by Percy Bysshe Shelley is that it shows that we all need a witness. This tells about the massacre of Peterloo in Manchester in 1816. And we are all, as human beings, storytellers, and we all need the ability to be able to express ourselves. And when I read this manifesto, I didn't cry, but I was extremely moved, and it really is a game changer. So we've got to get behind it. And to me, it's a no-brainer. What do you want? A just, free, fair society? Vote Labour. Or a mean, evil, nasty society? Vote for the Tories. Choice is yours. Right. Ye who suffer woes untold, or to feel, or to behold, your lost country bought and sold with the price of blood and gold. Let a vast assembly be, and with great solemnity, declare with measured words that ye are, as God made ye, free. Be your strong and simple words, keen to wound as sharpened swords, and wide as targets let them be, with the shade to cover ye. Let the charged artillery drive, till the dead earth seems alive, with the clash of clanging wheels and the tramp of horses' heels. Stand ye calm and resolute, like a forest, close and mute, with folded arms and looks which are the weapons of unvanquished war. And if then the tyrants dare, let them ride among you there, slash and stab and maim and hew. What they like, let them do. With folded arms and steady eyes, and little fear and less surprise, look upon them as they slay, till their rage has died away. And that slaughter to the nation shall steam up like inspiration, eloquent, oracular, a volcano heard afar. And these words shall then become like a precious thundered doom, ringing through each heart and brain, again, again, again. Now, this is audience participation, so I should hope most of you know this last verse. Shame on you if you don't. So are we ready? After 3. 1, 2, 3. Rise like lions after slumber, in unvanquishable number. Shake your chains to earth like dew, which in sleep have fallen on you. Ye are many, they are few. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxine. That was beautiful. Ash, darling, are you coming up now? Okay, fantastic. All right, so we've got Ash Sarkar and Michael Walker coming up now, and they're going to be doing some in conversation with some very special people. Yeah, not just with each other. Come on up, guys. Here come your mics.
Thank you.
All
We
right,
thought we were going to
fun.
have to share one, so this is a real upgrade.
We're actually going to do Endless Love, Luther Vandross and Whitney Houston. Are you ready? It's going to sound like a goose caught in a wind turbine. It is an absolute honour and a privilege to be here in a room of so many of my personal heroes, man like Ken Loach. Are you joking? Man like Ken Loach? Because there are people that would say that the arts are kind of frou-frou, that they're a luxury. But I'll tell you something, they're not a luxury, they're a necessity. We need art, we need beauty the same way that we need food and shelter and the air that we breathe. Because I didn't do PPE at uni, I did English Lit because I planned on being broke
Was that
for
a
the
dig
rest
at
of my
me?
life. Yeah, it was a dig at you. I didn't do PPE like this clown over here. I did Chaucer. Because you know what? Not all of us come out the womb straight away reading Gramsci. I mean, maybe John McDonnell does, but the rest of us don't come out the womb reading Gramsci. We learn from poems, we learn from films, we learn from novels, and we learn from music. So, if I'm not mistaken, I think our first in conversation partner should be maybe waiting in the wings. Is she? I was told that was going to be MIA. Is she here? Running late.
Let's start with our other 3 guests then. Great. This is why she needed backup, in case there was anything that changed along the way.
That's what happens when you've got people running on comrade time. You know what I mean? So please, can we welcome to the stage Billy Bragg, Jamie Winston, and Maverick Sabre. I think we are sharing mics. So we've got 3 absolute legends here who need no introduction, but just in case, we're going to give them introductions anyway. So on my right, but usually you're not on very many people's right.
No.
We have got the one and only Billy Bragg, a leading light of the British folk tradition.
Thank you very much.
You know, you've been making acoustic guitars punk, you know? You'd be the only person where if you pulled out an acoustic guitar at a party, I wouldn't be trying to kick you out. The only person.
That's fair. And on my left, I have Jamie Winston. Jamie Winston is an actor and producer. She is known for her roles in Kidulthood and Made in Dagenham. Jamie has also worked as an actor on the series Dead Set, Mad Boys, and the Barbara Windsor biopic Babs, which, as you were explaining to me earlier, has a lot of relevance to where we are today. Yeah. We're going to have to...
We are going to have to do that. Hello, good evening. Yeah, it does have a lot of relevance indeed. You know, playing Barbara Windsor also brought up a lot of stuff with Joan and how she used to, you know, make sure the arts were brought into such working class families. I certainly know my dad was brought in by Joan, and I hope to have followed in that footsteps, and that was due to certain places like this. So thank you for that. But sorry.
We are also joined by Maverick Sabre, a singer-songwriter and rapper.
How are you doing?
Maverick was born in Hackney before growing up in County Wexford in Ireland. You moved back to London on the advice of Plan B to start a musical career, and it's fair to say it was advice that proved quite prescient.
It was quite good
You've had
advice,
multiple
yeah.
top 20 singles since then.
You didn't resent him for getting you to pay London rent?
No, not at all. Not at all. It was good advice. And funny enough, actually, I haven't been back here since I've been 17. I did a show here, I think it was called Urban Development when I was about 17, 18. I just moved back from Ireland, a small town called New Ross in County Wexford. And they were doing a night curated for young artists who kind of, hadn't done many gigs and were kind of getting themselves started. So this theatre, not just for me, but for a lot of musicians, was kind of like the tread walk for a lot of beginnings. So yeah, thank you to this theatre and thank you to everyone being here and keep supporting. We need places like this. We need places like this.
So I've got a question for you, because the music scene, and in particular rap, has got a bit of a reputation of we don't need anyone to support us, we're going to do it all ourselves. Is that true? I mean, really, what can a government do for artists like you?
I think for me, I was spoken about earlier on, I think giving every child the opportunity to have a musical instrument and to be influenced by music, anyone who's been touched by music, which probably everyone in this audience has at some stage, whether you're a musician or just a listener, to give kids that inspiration and that form of self-expression so young can change their whole lives, whether they finally go into music as a profession or they just use it as a tool to express themselves. I think being able to give people from every single background that is just a progressive move for a better society moving forward.
I mean, the other thing I wanted to ask you is something really specific.
Go on.
Okay, so I remember when I was too young to go clubbing, I still did. And please, I really hope my mum's not in this audience, otherwise she's going to kill me. And there was this one venue that we always went to because they were pretty slack on checking your ID. Right. And it was amazing. That was where I first heard grime. That's where I first saw people getting up, rapping on the mic. It had DJs and it was chaos and it was amazing. And actually, I mean, I probably shouldn't say this, the venue was a strip club on its one night off a month. And they'd empty it out and let the MCs take over. It was brilliant. And it got shut down. Now, in Labour's Arts Manifesto, they're going to put funding in for 750 grassroots venues. Can you tell me about your favourite venue, best gig you've done?
Best gig I've done in London was probably, do you know what I did? And this isn't self-promotion by any means. I did Shepherd's Bush last Friday night. And
ooh!
Yeah, so, and this is it was my first album. I've gone independent this year, and it was my first record putting out independent, so it was my first independent tour as an independent touring artist. And, venues like that, venues like this, venues like XOYO, venues like the Roundhouse from Islington Garage, they need to be kept open because bands and musicians need to express themselves, and young people and people of all ages need to have a voice that they can connect with. And when you take these venues away, you strip someone from understanding their time and someone having a voice on the period of time and the history they're living in. So,
yeah, so we're here to celebrate a vision for the arts and culture over the next 5 years, the next 10 years in Labour's manifesto, but we're also here to, I suppose, tell the truth about what has gone on over the last 9 years. And so I wanted to ask you all, really, I think you all made it basically before 2010, right? But I wanted to know how you feel that your industries have changed since the cuts of 2010 onwards.
Well, for sure. I mean, I definitely had an early career. I was at college doing a national diploma, and it wasn't great, to be honest. It was very uninspiring and a little bit, it was good, but I just knew that me having a very serious case of dyslexia was very pressurized to go into certain different avenues. I struggled with sort of going into acting quite early because I didn't want to be like my dad or judged or you're getting an easy ride. But then I thought, fuck it, I'm going to do it because I'm good at it. So then...
The next Prime Minister's in the audience, Jamie, you can't
Sorry,
swear.
Jeremy, but we do swear. Fuck Boris. And I decided that, I had to put myself out there and find my own ways. And doing that, I sort of searched and hunted down kind of casting directors and said, look, I don't know what to do. I'm a bit of a rude girl. I talk like this. How can I get into that? I can't really afford to go to RADA or any of them ones there. So he said to me, you've got to just start auditioning. You've got to get into the room. And at the time, when they were casting Kidulthood and things like Bullet Boy, it was terrifying, but we did have money. We had the Film Council that would fund these films, and they would pump out about 11, 12 films a year. And now that doesn't exist in this arts climate. It really doesn't. You know, you're actors like me, you're going for maybe one job a year in that domain of independent filmmaking. So that kind of that rug got pulled after Kidulthood and all those sort of really strong London-based films, British films. Yeah, it just didn't kind of exist anymore once that money went. So you had to find different directions, and I found myself sort of workshopping in empty theatres and sort of reading things out and doing a bit of Shakespeare to see if I should still be doing it. But yeah, there wasn't a lot to replace that. So this is really inspiring. This is really, you know, I've got a child now, and I hopefully he's going to go into the arts. He's definitely going to learn an instrument. He's definitely not going to be knocked back because he's dyslexic. So he's not dyslexic, but we don't know. So, you know. But yeah, sorry, I hope that answered your question.
So I found out today that me and Jamie actually went to the same school, Enfield County Girls' School, big up. And that's why you should never have two county girls in the same room at the same time, because it is going to get chaotic here. We were the worst, also the best. All right. I mean, I've got one of my all-time heroes of the left on stage. It's a bit mad. My legs are shaking a bit. I mean, one thing that I want to ask you is that throughout your whole career, you've been making music which is about struggling against the odds. And in some ways, having the Tories in power for so long is pretty good for inspiration. So
yeah, well, the thing is, music is not just there for the nasty things in life. You know, the key thing about music, and I suppose it's just true of all the arts, is that our currency is empathy. You know, our job is to go out and make you feel for a person that, you know, an experience that you may never had yourself, for someone who might be in a worse situation than yourself, not politically, emotionally, you know, a great emotional song. And that's the power of music. People think it has the power to change the world. It doesn't, but it does have the power to fire people up, you know. And in times like this, I think that when there's so much cynicism about, the antidote to that is activism. And music has a role to inspire people, acting as a role, art has a role to inspire people with activism. And I thought very much when Rob spoke very touchingly about his 6-year-old making those cancer ninjas there, that was a clear example of how art allows you to express things you might not be able to say yourself, but you can find that compassionate expression. And if the Labour Party, to me, is about anything, it's about making compassion accessible to everybody in the country, no matter what their means are, no matter where they live.
So, I think it's our turn to sidle off the stage, and I'm introducing our next speaker. And it's kind of mad because I remember when Superstar got released, and it was on, you know, the PlayStation karaoke machine, and I used to drive my mum nuts because I would be singing it non-stop and trying to do the dance from the video. And now I will continue to drive my mum nuts by doing it again. Like, as soon as I get home, I'm going to be like, Mum, go break out that Sing Star. I want to be Jamelia again. So please welcome to the stage the one, the only Jamelia. Oh, my God.
Okay, so I'm not going to pretend that I'm comfortable speaking, but Dawn and Jeremy asked me, and you don't say no. So here I am. I just wanted to say a few words, really, and kind of present myself as a case study for the arts. I'm going to start by showing off and telling you that my name is Jamelia. I've sold millions of albums. I've... it's not, no. There's a point to my bragging. I've performed on every continent. I've performed for royalty, and I've had numerous top 10 singles. I have a massive house in Birmingham. I promise you there's a reason for this, okay? I have a swimming pool in my back garden. I have children who I've put through private school. And now I want to get to the point before you just think, oh, she's such an idiot. And the reason why I'm telling you all of this is because the day that I was born, my mum wasn't able to take me home. She had me a month after her 17th birthday. And she couldn't take me home for 6 weeks because she couldn't afford to pay the electricity bill. And so we had to stay in the hospital. She took me home after 6 weeks. By the time she was 21, she had 2 more children. And as you might say, a statistic, a single parent with 3 kids. And I saw my mum work her way up from that point. She ran the, she had like the local play centre, and she became the manager of that, from volunteering to becoming the manager. And whilst we were there, my mum insisted that all of the children that attended, who were majority single-parent families, we all had the opportunity to attend theatres, to attend concerts, to go to even Gladiators. It was wicked. But we had plenty of opportunities to immerse ourselves in the arts. And then I went to a fantastic school that, where the teachers really encouraged my creative side. I do have to point this out. My mum left school at 15 because she wasn't an academic. She is a very creative person. And because people rubbished her idea of wanting to do something in the creative world and saying that that was not a way to survive, she ended up not doing anything much apart from the community centre. And then, but then she had me, and as a mother, my mum encouraged me. When I told her I wanted to sing, at no point did she tell me it was rubbish, that it was stupid. I was hugely encouraged. I was then also hugely encouraged at school. I was given access, as I said, to immerse myself in the arts. And the point of me telling you all of this is, as I said, I've gone on to sell millions of albums. I've gone on to be able to afford to take my children to the theatre, to any form of, even today, this opportunity today, I wouldn't have been asked in the room had I not, been a superstar, as they say. No. If you get my point, I wouldn't have been asked to be here today, and this in itself is an opportunity for my children, who are all here, by the way. And as I'm saying, my point is, all of our children require these opportunities. All children should be able to fulfill their full potential. All children should not have to rely on being an academic to gain success in life. Some of us are creatives, and art is a fantastic opportunity to allow you to be free to express who you authentically are. And even if you're not going to pursue a career in the arts, you gain transferable skills. Learning an instrument is discipline, it's commitment, and it's also a huge build for your self-esteem. I'm not going to carry on too much longer, but I just want to say that greatness can come from anywhere. Great things can happen anywhere, and nobody should be written off. My mom would have been the type of child that was written off, and she didn't allow that to happen to me. I won't allow it to happen to my children, which is why I completely support this manifesto. I want it to happen, and I want to encourage everybody. Is there anyone in this room who has not registered to vote? Oh, yeah, you dare not admit it. If you haven't, make sure you do. And again, the reason I'm mentioning that, I registered to vote on Thursday for the very first time in my life. I'm 38 years old. So, and it's purely because I see it as utterly important. We have the opportunity to make huge lifelong changes, not just for ourselves, not just for our own children, but for every child in this country. And what we are capable of doing, you have to do it. Like, you have to, and you have to be having the conversations that I'm having. Literally every person, have you registered to vote? Have you registered to vote? When you're walking down the street, I don't care if you come across as crazy, please do it. Because, you know, we'll have Jeremy Corbyn, come on. That's it.
Thank you, Jamelia. Oh my God, that was wonderful. Really great. Jeremy, I think on December 13th, we should maybe go do a celebratory cannonball into Jamelia's pool. Got a pool? All right. Okay, Ash and Michael, I'm afraid I'm going to have to call you back up here because someone has just arrived that I think people are going to be very excited to hear from you, from them, from all of you. Have you guys seen the NHS video that I made yesterday? Thanks. Share it if you haven't, because it's got all these people who are like, are watching it. They're like, okay, fine, I'll admit it, I'm going to vote Labour, including like blue tick celebrities on Twitter who try to just float above it all. Now they're like, yep, voting Labour. So share that thing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here come Ash and Michael again.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to lose my mind, like for real. Because the woman I'm about to introduce, when I was growing up and there weren't very many South Asian role models for girls like me who were mouthy, who were politicized, who wanted to talk about injustices in the world until everyone was sick and tired of it, suddenly along comes a woman like MIA who makes music that completely blows your head off while looking cool as a word I'm not going to say in front of Jeremy Corbyn. And the fact that I get to introduce her tonight on this stage, honestly, it's the honor of my life. So please welcome to the stage, MIA.
Hi, everyone.
I thought you'd be, you know, in a tax bracket that was too good for this kind of thing. Why are you backing Labour?
Yeah, right now I'm an elitist, so I dress like it. Yeah, I think for me it's really important to stress that every step of the way to becoming the elitist should be voting Tory type of person. It's the sort of government funding that put me into St Martin's and to study art, and I guess I've experienced every rung of society in England, and yeah, not trying to forget the roots. Yeah.
Your personal story is obviously hugely inspiring. I mean, after, you know, spending your childhood in Sri Lanka, you come to Mitcham, of all places, in the 1980s, where you're like one of two, like, you know, dabs of melanin in the estate. And, you know, it's 1980s racism, right? It's the hardcore stuff. Tell me a bit about how art found you and what it meant to you to find a creative outlet.
I think I was walking home from school, which was paid for by Merton Council, and they paid for everything, the uniform, the food, your lunch, everything. And I was walking home with a friend, and I said, what's the best thing to be in this country? And someone said, pop star. And I think I was about 11. And so at that time, yeah, I was looking around on the estate, and it seemed like everybody was a skinhead, you know, and I thought it was a profession.
We actually have a skinhead on the stage at the moment.
That looks popular, you know, and everyone was like, no, that's pop, like it represents pop star. And so I became it. You know, I was like, okay, cool. But along the way, I think every bit of education that I'd experienced, and also the transition from education to, middle school to high school to college, college to uni. I was constantly trying to drop out. And in those moments, I spent a lot of time in youth clubs, and especially around East London. And those really helped me, because now and again you come across people that are very, experienced. And, they were sort of like social outcasts and stuff like that, but it's because of government funding that they were able to rehabilitate themselves, like, for example, ex-convicts and stuff who then would come and help crazy teenagers like myself. And I would listen to them more than my teachers sometimes, and so they would always encourage me to go back into education. So it was always either youth clubs or, education. So that's kind of why I'm here today, to stress the importance of giving, investing back into the community in that sense, because it does, I don't think art should be for rich people, education should just be rich people, and I feel like it's kind of going that way. And even though I'm an elitist, I have to come and, encourage the wealth distribution so it goes back.
So we're here to celebrate Labour's fabulous arts manifesto. We're also here to try and propel Jeremy Corbyn into number 10 to be our next Prime Minister. I know, MIA, that you said in 2017 that you don't normally get involved in party politics, but that Jeremy Corbyn becoming leader of the Labour Party meant that you just had to. So I wonder if you could explain that thought process, what went on there.
Yeah, I dropped out of politics, or caring about it, really. But I think, I don't know, after like a string of people who are in Downing Street who kind of didn't work to get there, we just sort of give them chances constantly to be like, oh yeah, put him in and put Theresa May in. And they didn't
Failing up, I think they call it.
Yeah, and I feel like, well, why not take a chance on Jeremy Corbyn, because they keep taking chances on people that don't even deserve it. And it seems like it's such a strange thing in this country that people would rather back something that hasn't shown, the thing.
It's not working, so it's time to kick Boris Johnson out, eh?
Yeah, I was going to wear something that said "fuck Boris," but I didn't want to be too obvious. but yeah, it kind of feels like it's sort of now or never. And I think that, I'm grateful that someone like Corbyn's running. And yeah, and I feel like I have to kind of, it's almost like the last stand that England has got. And after him, to get someone with such a track record is going to be completely impossible. We just don't encourage that sort of thing. And I think this might be a bit of a last, breed, I should say. And I think after that, it's going to be very difficult to find people who are not corrupted in some sort of way, Yeah.
So no pressure, JC. So one last question. And this is something which I need to stress is not in Labour's Arts Manifesto. So when this gets written up in the Daily Mail, you guys have got plausible deniability, okay? Just so you've got your rebuttal ready. If you could change the national anthem to one song, what would it be? I think for me it would be Gigs Talking the hardest. I'm just putting it out there.
For now, I don't know.
It could be one of your own. The royalties would be great, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's true. I think, yeah, maybe if you sang Paper Planes, you'd get all the elitists to vote for you.
So please, let's give a really warm round of applause to my personal heroine.
Thanks for having me.
MIA.
Good luck.
You're going to be performing a song for us, I think, but you've got to go get ready for that. And then we'll have Rob Delaney back to tell us what's happening next.
All right, let's hear it for MIA. I'm so glad. I came so close to wearing my gold robe, and we would have clashed. And great job by Ash and Michael, who do such a great job every day for the cause. Thank you, guys. Up next, we've got some guys. Everybody loves Top Boy, right? Well, we got a couple of the gentlemen who are responsible for it. So I'd like to invite to the stage now Ronan Bennett and Jerry Jackson. Welcome, gents.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi. Long before Top Boy, I had a job working as Jeremy's research assistant in Parliament when Jeremy was a young MP and had a kind of different colour of hair. I've known Jeremy and John McDonnell for 35 years. They stepped up during very dark times for the Irish community. I'm Irish, you might have noticed. It was a time when the Irish community in Britain was looked upon with suspicion, and a lot of innocent people went to jail. Their families, their friends went and pleaded with anybody that they thought had an ear, anybody they thought could do something. And that included politicians, and it included Labour politicians. And I have to tell you, back then, that very, very, very few Labour politicians wanted anything to do with miscarriage of justice cases involving Irish people. John and Jeremy stepped forward. They didn't care. They knew an injustice when they saw it, and they acted. They put their money where their mouth was. The Irish community in Britain owes them a massive debt of gratitude, and I hope the Irish community will vote for them. Like I say, I've known Jeremy a long time, and that means that actually you know a little bit about people. And one of the things is, and this will come as a shock to most of you, but Jeremy and Boris Johnson have a few things in common. I know it seems unlikely, but they do. One thing they have in common is that they both have had trouble with the police. In Boris Johnson's case, it was a domestic dispute. There was a woman in danger and the police had to be called. In Jeremy's case, there were repeated problems with the police owing to his campaigning for Nelson Mandela at a time when the Tories were looking to hang him. Jeremy also has a keen interest in race and race relations, and so does Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson calls black people pickaninnies with watermelon smiles. He calls gay people bum boys. He calls Muslim women pillar boxes, post boxes. Jeremy campaigns for equality. He's been arrested on picket lines for equality. He holds up posters arguing for equality and the end to racism and the abolition of apartheid. It's a comparison of sorts. And finally, one other thing that I know they have in common is that they both have their own kind of idiosyncratic forms of recreation. Jeremy, it's damson jam, Jeremy, is it? Yeah, damson jam and an allotment. And with Boris Johnson, he gets his cartons that his wine comes in. He paints them red, and he makes buses, which is probably really handy for us, because if the unimaginable does happen on the 12th and the Tories do form the next government, that's what we'd be riding around in, cardboard buses. Those are the secret comparisons of Jeremy Corbyn and Boris Johnson that I can share with you. I also want to share with you Jerry Jackson here, my long-standing friend and a collaborator on Top Boy. 10 years or so ago, I came into Jerry and said, I've just seen a kid dealing drugs on the street. I live in Hackney, and this kid was dealing dealing on the street just outside the local supermarket. Jerry got me, said, this, which by the way was a world that I wasn't, I mean, I knew it existed, but I'd never really seen it or been that interested in it before. But a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old kid dealing drugs in the street, as a writer, as an artist, as a human being, you have to investigate that story. Jerry was the man who put me in touch with kids in that position. He's worked with kids, he's a youth leader and has done all those sorts of things. And he was the one who through him, made the contacts, I was able to make the contacts that led to Top Boy. He's been part of the creative team ever since. So, Jerry Jackson.
Well, as you can guess, I'm not Irish, and I'm not a politician. But I'll tell you something. I worked in the youth services, I worked in mental health, and when you've worked in those areas and you see the good it does, when someone cuts it, you know there's going to be problems. Now, cancer is a right fact there right now. Cancer is killing our families. Every family must know someone that's died from cancer. But right now, the next cancer is knife crime. Knife crime is there because of the cuts. And the other cancer is the Tories. They made the cuts. Yeah? Now, the thing is this. Yesterday, I sat down with 10 police officers, and I said to them, what can we do about knife crime? And they said to me, it's too late. I said, but it's too late, then you're dead. We have to go back to the basics, yeah? Put back what was there and build on that. I mean, it's going to take time. Now you've got kids. You've got kids having kids. You know, if you've got a youngster, a young child having a child, walking around with his trousers down here, pushing that buggy, and that kid looks up and sees, and thinks it's normal. It's not normal. We've got to start re-educating these kids. We've got to start working harder in the schools. We've got to put back the youth service and put the right teams in there. And if we don't do it, bigger problems are going to come. Forget Brexit. Think about our kids. Let's deal with that.
Hey, thank you, Ronan and Jerry. That was great. I was so absorbed, I almost didn't come on. Ronan and Jerry and Billy Bragg, I was looking at them, and they're all much older than me, but they're so handsome. What's the deal? Socialism is good for you, is what I can gather. All right, thank you, Ronan and Jerry. Okay, up next, we are going to hear a message from our friend, Mark Rylance.
I'm really thrilled by this new Charter for the Arts that Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell and the Labour Party have announced. I think providing access for young people who may not yet know that there are such things as the arts, to provide access for them to find a way into the arts or to enjoy the arts is just key. I know so many of the artists I know, very successful people from Janet McTeer to Johnny Depp, Sting. So many people have come from completely obscure backgrounds. You just can't tell where an artist is going to be born or come from. That's history proves that. So you have to have a wide net that provides access for people from all over. And if you think what the wonderful policy of supporting our sportsmen did, I think John Major put it in place actually for the Olympics. Look at how we've all celebrated our English sports people in the Olympics. If you give the same encouragement to the artists in England, they'll make us so proud as a nation. The imagination of the English, of all the nations of Great Britain, is admired around the world. And so I think investing in the arts is a wonderful policy. I see the arts providing great health to people in society, actually. We all suffer all kinds of things, don't we, in our lives, joyous things and sometimes tragedies. I know in our family we lost our youngest daughter, and the story that we were able to tell ourselves to get through that was crucial, and the arts really helped us, music and painting and going to plays. It was just an enormous help when you hit something that's a great psychological challenge. John McDonnell and Jeremy Corbyn have come along and seen this wonderful young youth company I work with in London, which uses a lot of young people who've been excluded for some reason or other from school or society, and man, they play Shakespeare in the most wonderful way, investing their own lives and expressing themselves, and you see them finding such sanctuary and hope and encouragement that they can shape their lives with their own imagination. So I've been impressed by John and Jeremy's interest and presence there. That I'm not making it up, that's just a fact. They seem sincerely interested in this policy. I don't think it's just words. I like to also say that in 30 years of playing in the theatre, or maybe more actually, 40 years of playing in the theatre, John and Jeremy are the two politicians who've come along the most of any politicians during my whole time. And when they come to the plays, Shakespeare plays, have come to modern plays, I've been at classical music concerts with them, they clearly love the arts, they clearly move by it and talk about the plays. And I'm very impressed always with Jeremy when he comes, that despite me knowing him and me often playing a lead part, he talks to everyone equally, whether you're a stage manager or you just are carrying a spear or haven't got much to say, or whether you're a lead player in some other part. He's treats everyone very much the same. That's my experience of him, that he means what he says when he wants things to be fairer in our society. And his love of Shakespeare is very encouraging, because I think the changes that are coming upon us as a society are Shakespearean, and we're lucky to have this great poet to help us, guide us through how things can change, sometimes very, very worryingly, and still come out for the good. So yes, it's a very thrilling thing to see this new charter they've announced, and to know from my knowledge of the two of them, Jeremy and John, that their love of the arts is very sincere. So I wish them well.
Thank you, Mark Rylance, for a wonderful endorsement. That was quite beautiful. All right, now I'm going to bring to the stage someone very special. Please put your hands together for MP and Shadow Chancellor, Mr. John McDonnell.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Look, everyone's sharing their personal journey into the arts, so I want to share mine with you as well. There's an element of tragedy here, really. Up until the age of 8, I thought that I was going to have a wonderful, successful music career. This is not amusing. There's elements of tragedy in all our lives. And then at St Mary's Catholic School, taught by Irish nuns, when we had the music lesson, I used to always stand beside the strongest boy in school. You needed him sometimes. And then when Sister Pancratius handed out the instruments, I got the triangle. And my mate, standing next to me, the strongest boy in school, said, "Can I borrow your triangle?" And I said, sure. And he straightened it. Now, I don't know what you think an Irish Catholic nun can do with a straightened triangle when you've handed it in at the back of that lesson. But that was the end of my musical career. We all have these tragedies in life. What we're trying to do today is launch a manifesto which is founded on the principles of what we believe our socialism to be. It's that principle, bread and roses. And we've had 9 years of austerity under this Tory government, which actually, I got interviewed by Newsnight and they said, "Have you got any Tory friends?" And you don't want to personalise politics, we never do. But I said, actually, I'll never forgive them for what they've done over the last decade. Never. Because it's not just the levels of human suffering that they've inflicted on our fellow citizens. It's the attempt to deny people hope and to deny people the ability to dream. And that's what they've tried to do over the last 10 years. They've tried to, I suppose, create a society in which There was no horizon to see beyond. And I'll never forgive them for that. But what's kept people going actually is, yes, the political struggles that have gone on, but also what's kept people going is that artist after artist, whether they be in drama, whether they be in writers, whether they be music or dance, have actually still managed to inspire people that there is hope, that there is a hope of a better world. We've argued that for years on that slogan, another world is possible. And artist after artist in all their different forms are still inspiring people, no matter how bleak it's been over the last 9 years, that world isn't just possible, it's necessary, and actually it's now coming into sight. And part of that isn't just about ending austerity. It's unleashing the huge amount of talent that we have within our society, within our community. You've seen much of it tonight displayed. But it does require resources, and that's what we're going to do. This manifesto is about resources. It is about saying, yes, we want to invest in building the homes that people need. We want to ensure we lift people out of poverty. And of course, we want to ensure that they get a decent health service and education. All of those things, of course, they do. But also, we want them to have the best quality of stimulating life possible. And that comes from the arts. It comes... It comes from the very principle that the arts are not for the elite, they're for everybody. And the creativity that comes from our people has got to be resourced. And that's why, yes, we're putting a large amount of money into reopening art centres and opening art venues right the way across the country. We're going to make sure that young people, yes, have the arts pupil premium at primary and secondary school. We're going to make sure as well that when they want to go on and study drama or dance or music or whatever, those opportunities will be there, and they will not come out of college or university burdened by tuition fees ever again. And we want the arts to be part of a continuing part of people's lives from cradle to grave, all the way through their lives, having that opportunity. That's why we're putting so much more money back into adult education and the opportunities that will provide people. This is a renaissance that will occur when Jeremy Corbyn is elected Prime Minister on the 12th of December. Today we launched another policy, which I'm so pleased with. Some of you will have seen, we launched our policy that will mean that the WASPI women will now be properly compensated for the... Isn't it interesting? It was the discriminatory injustice that they suffered, and that the Tories have they perpetrated that injustice, and they've refused to act upon it, so we gave them the commitment they did today that we will solve this issue. But also what was interesting, the reaction that we had from the Tories today about, this is unaffordable. This is, how can you find billions for these women who have been so discriminated against? Well, we can find billions in the same way they found billions for the bankers, in the same way that they gave billions away to the rich and the corporations over the last 10 years. And I tell you what they'll say about our arts manifesto today. They'll tell us that it's not affordable. Well, I'll tell them, actually, it's not that it's not affordable. It is completely affordable. We can't do without it. If we want to aspire to a life beyond just the drudgery of work, a life beyond just the worry and stress of everyday survival, if we want to aspire to something different for ourselves and our children and our grandchildren, it will be based upon a quality of life in which they appreciate literature and music and dance and drama and all those things that lift us to that further horizon. That's what we're about. And yes, it is bread, but it's the roses as well that comes with socialism. Thank you.
Thank you, John McDonnell. Thank you very much. Okay. Now we have something really fun coming up for you. We're going to get one beautiful song from Emily Sande. Here she comes.
Good evening, everybody. It's an honor to be here to be performing for such an important cause. Access to the arts changed my whole life. It changed my family's life. And I'm a completely different person because of music. And I chose this song to sing tonight because although at times we're made to feel alone or small in our fight for justice and in our vision for the future, we are not, and together we are strong. This is You're Not Alone. Are you sick and tired of being lied to? Getting kind of bored of being ignored? Can't find the tribe that you belong to? Well, my friend, you are not alone. Well, are you tired of begging for some answers? Are you scared you won't make it out alive? Does it make you sick when you through this answer? Well, my friend, you are not alone. You are not alone here. Don't fear, you are not alone here. No way, there's plenty more of us here. Yeah, yeah, my friend, you are not alone. Are you tired of working for the minimum? Has your heart adjusted to the dark? Does it make you sick? They kill the innocent. Well, my friend, you are not alone. Are you dreaming of a brighter future? Somewhere the children can be free. Will you risk it all to tell the truth? Yeah. Well, my friend, you are not alone. You are not alone here. Don't fear, you are not alone here. No way, there's plenty more of us here. Yeah, yeah, my friend, you are not alone. Well, are you tired of feeling so invisible? Are you tired of silencing your voice? Do you still have hope that peace is possible? Well, my friend, you are not alone. No, you are not alone here. Don't fear, you are not alone here. And no way, there's plenty more of us here. Yeah, yeah, my friend, you are not alone. Look, you are not alone. Don't fear, look, you are not alone here. No way, no way, there's plenty more of us here. Yeah, yeah, my friend, you are not alone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily. That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Emily. Let her hear it. All right, everybody. A lot of great people here that it's been wonderful to hear from, but there's there's one person who I think you might be most interested in hearing from tonight. I'd like to please welcome to the stage Jeremy Corbyn.
Rob, don't go. Thank you. I don't want Rob to leave the stage yet. I don't want Rob to leave the stage yet. Rob, thank you not just for tonight, but thank you for sharing the pain of losing your son. It's an unimaginable pain you must have gone through. And you've shared that with us, and you've produced this incredible video about the National Health Service.
Thanks.
Rob pointed out the value of healthcare free at the point of need, which is available for all in this country. That is part of our great Labour heritage. And I simply say this to anyone that thinks this election is not important: with us, our National Health Service will never be put on sale to anybody else. It's ours for all time. And Rob, you've helped to give that simple message to so many people. We share your pain. We thank you for all that you've done to convince people of the importance, the human justice, and the civilization of the health service. Thank you, Rob.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you, sir. And good luck. We got your back.
My goodness, there's so much I'd like to say tonight. I love the arts, I love theatre, I love art, I love music, I love the inspiration that it brings to all of our lives. This theatre here is part of our history. It's called the Theatre Royal because the Royals wouldn't allow it to be called the Royal Theatre. It was a bit of East End humour, you know. You can't have the Royal Theatre, so we'll have the Theatre Royal. And that's what we've got here in Stratford, where Joan Littlewood and so many others did so much, where Oh What a Lovely War was put on, which made people look at the First World War in a different way, where music hall took place, where Mary Lloyd sang, and apparently there's Panto coming on very soon, and that's why we've got this rather fetching set. Very unusual for a Labour Party meeting. But I think we might change that and put it in the rule book. We have clouds at every Labour Party meeting around our stage. It could make it wonderful. Our movement is full of the redolent history of struggle, of people with imagination, but also with people that put that imagination into practice. One of the great features and figures of the people that founded our movement was the wonderful socialist William Morris. And I quote what he said: "With the arrogance of youth, I determined to do no less than transform the world with beauty." William Morris is often referred to for his wallpaper designs by the weekend supplements. Actually, William Morris was a very dedicated, very serious socialist who wrote wonderful books and wonderful poetry and organised people in the latter part of the 19th century. We learned from those people and all that they contributed to our lives. And our movement is full of people that made great contributions to bring about a serious arts policy. Jenny Lee, who was the arts minister in the 1964 to 1970 Labour government. And I remember as a young man growing up in Shropshire, and how horrible it is, the Tory party launches their manifesto in Telford in Shropshire, where I grew up. Are they trying to personally insult me in some way? It's a shocking and outrageous thing they've done. But don't worry, Telford will rise again. It will get over it. And what Jenny did was set up the Ministry of Arts. Now, Jenny Lee grew up in Lanarkshire, part of the Red Clydeside, part of that whole incredible tradition of the radical movements of Scotland, and then after the war became MP for Cannock and eventually a minister in the Wilson government of 1964 to 70.
And she set up the Arts Council. She established the Open University. Why? Because she believed everybody should have access to education throughout their lives. And that is what the Open University did for so many people and does for so many people. It gives them that chance to study whatever they did or didn't do at school, to go back and study something else. Access for all. But she also established the Arts Council and the principle of funding of art centres, of theatres and communities all around the country. And I think we should say a big thank you to Jenny for what she achieved at that time. And it breaks my heart when you go around the country and you see what all these years of Tory and Lib Dem austerity has done. The libraries that are closed and sold. The sports facilities that are unaffordable and simply not there for the young people who might want them. The galleries that are barely opened. The municipal theatres that are crumbling into decay because the local authorities don't have the money to keep them going. And the schools that are underfunded for their arts, so their children get no chance to perform, to learn musical instruments, to visit galleries, or to go and see a theatre. And do you know what happens in a period of austerity? Inequality grows and grows. Children whose parents can afford it, send them to stage school, give them musical instruments, give them private tuition, and so on. Others simply don't have that chance or that opportunity. And you know what? It's just plain wrong. And so, when we were planning our manifesto from very early on, I was utterly determined that our manifesto would be very clear on the issues of arts, culture, music, and development. Because poetry and art and invention and science actually all go together. One of my favourite poets is Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And he wrote amazing poetry, some of it incredibly long, some of it so long you don't always get to the end of it. But he was also a great friend of lots of scientists. As far as he was concerned, exploring the mind and exploring the ideas that come from poetry was exactly the same as his friend Humphrey Davy exploring the ideas of what electricity could do and how it could develop. They saw that as an interaction of one thing with the other. Arts, music, and culture are not separate from science, language, engineering, and ideas. You need that inspiration in whatever you do. And our arts policy is to create a £1 billion arts fund, and that will ensure that the libraries, the theatres, and the local arts facilities are improved, are developed, are made available for all. And I say made available for all because I believe very, very passionately about that. And I know John does and all of our team do as well. I go around the country doing lots and lots of meetings in lots and lots of places. And I go through what we want to do for education through the National Education Service and what we want to do with Ofsted and what we want to do with Key Stage 1 and 2 testing and all these things. But you know what gets the biggest resonance wherever I go? When I say we will introduce a ring-fenced pupil arts premium to ensure that every child gets a chance to learn a musical instrument in school, irrespective of their parental income. They will get that chance, and they will get that chance of music and self-expression. Because to me, it is about making sure our children grow up in a world where they're not afraid to express themselves, where they're proud to express themselves. And so that art opportunity for young people is so, so important. But it's also what we do in our lives with music. If you think about this, every working class community forever has always had its own music. They've had brass bands, they've had steel bands, they've had all kinds of things. Young people rehearsing in their bedrooms or going to community centres trying to develop and write their own music, doing electronic music, creating new ideas themselves is fantastic. But increasingly, it's difficult for them to find anywhere to write, anywhere to develop their music, anywhere to rehearse, and anywhere to perform.
There's nothing wrong in public funding of music places. There's everything right about it because it does bring people together in a creative endeavor and ambition to achieve things together. And I want to make sure we absolutely do achieve that. It's also about funding arts courses, filmmaking, and all that goes with that as well. I mean, Ken is one of the most amazing filmmakers it will be our privilege ever to know for what he's achieved. The films he's made, from Cathy Come Home to Kes to The Wind That Shakes the Barley, and the more recent films about the brutality of the way in which universal credit operates within our society. And so I want to say a big thank you to Ken and so many others for all that they've done to bring home through their artistic medium the reality of how brutal life has become because of austerity. But I also want to say thank you to all the others that have performed this evening and what they've done and what they've said. And I say a particular thank you to Ronan Bennett for being a good friend and for saying what he did this evening. But also through his writing, bringing to life what life has happened in different places. His fantastic book about the death of Patrice Lumumba in the Congo in 1961 says more about the history of the Congo than many, many highly academic histories have done, because he understood what happened there and went through it. And so it's through literature, art, music, and poetry that we understand not just about the history that's gone before, but we begin to understand so much about ourselves. So our government, which I hope will be elected on December the 12th, will transform, will help to transform our society, will bring about that sense of justice to every part of this country, that will invest in the education, the housing, and the health that's needed. We'll invest in a green industrial revolution that will help to both protect our planet and create the jobs of the future. But it will also invest in the hopes of a new generation. Because so many young people are brought up to believe that they're going to be worse off than their parents, and any children they have are going to be even worse off than them. A cascade of intergenerational poverty, when there should be a cascade of intergenerational hope and inspiration that the next generation can achieve even more than this generation. And of all of our artists this evening, they've shown us all the things that are possible. They've shown what they've achieved themselves, but above all, they've shared that inspiration that it might be possible for others to do so. And there's so many poets and writers and authors I'd love to quote here. But I tell you, when you think about history, you think about the present, and you think about the future. When you get a chance to share those ideas, discuss and talk about those ideas, you begin to understand the history of our world so much better and how you can bring about peace for the future. One of the most interesting things I've ever done since I became leader of the Labour Party was to spend 2 hours in the National Theatre on the South Bank discussing literature, African and European literature and its comparisons, with my great friend Ben Ockery. To me, it taught me a great deal about him and what he's done, but also that thirst for literature, for people trying to get out of colonial oppression in the past or see a way of their own liberation for the future. And so let's not be afraid for our next generation to dream. Let's be proud of creating the libraries, the books, the poetry, the music, the art, and the opportunities of the future that our young people will be able not just to dream, but to live those dreams, but also to be so much better at everything else they do because of those opportunities they've been given. Art should never be just for the few that can afford it. It should always be for the many who need it, and a society that's made stronger by it. Emily is an unbelievably fantastic artist, and there's so much I could quote, but I just want to quote part of it. Are you sick of being lied to? Getting kind of bored of being ignored? Can't find the tribe that you belong to? Oh, my friend, you are not alone. There's so much in her song that's so powerful and so brilliant. And there are many others that have inspired us. One as a person who's inspired me enormously has been the great American poet, sadly now passed away, Maya Angelou, and all that she wrote. And if I just quote a little bit of it. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may write me down in the dust, but like dust, I will rise. Maya Angelou gave us that inspiration of how she would rise. And there are so many others that have written so much. And I want to just finish with one because he's a person that I feel almost an affinity to in what he tried to do. In Chile, in the 1970s, a radical government was elected, and it was opposed from day one by the richest and most powerful forces in the world. One person was an inspiration in all that, was the singer-songwriter Victor Jara. Victor Jara was eventually killed in the stadium along with thousands of others. But he was asked about his thoughts sometime before he died about his singing, and he said, "My guitar is not for the rich. No, nothing like that. My song is of the ladder that we are building to reach the stars." What Victor did was inspired people as the lives they could lead. And he inspired that movement in Chile, which despite all the attacks and problems, did achieve so much for the poorest in that country. I want our government to go into office on December the 12th, pledged to end the injustice and inequality within our society, to give hope and opportunity and inspiration for the generation to come and the generations to come after that, to play our part in making our world sustainable and clean and green, to making our world one where we think of peace and opportunity, where we think of the wonders of the human spirit to achieve so much that we can share that wealth. I do not want to lead a government that walks by on the other side while some of our fellow citizens sleep in the gutter. I don't want to lead a government that walks by on the other side to children underachieving in school because of the poverty of where they live. I want to lead a government that is absolutely determined to end the poverty and injustice that's so wrong and unnecessary, and give hope to those communities that have had it torn out of them by free market economics that's destroyed their industries. A government that invests for all time, for the future, and build that society that was dreamt of by so many that have gone before us. On their shoulders, we will rise. We will rise and build that society full of decency and of love. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Thank you very much. We're going to work very hard to ensure that you're the next Prime Minister. Thank you so much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been a wonderful audience tonight. We've got one more act, our finale. Please welcome to the stage, Clean Bandit.